I've approached over 2,000 women in real life, not sliding in their DMs, not texting them, not on dating apps, walking up to them face to face. And most of what you've been taught about attraction, it's been flat out wrong. And I'm going to break down in today's video exactly what actually works and what fails every time and what keeps most guys invisible. If you're new to the channel, I used to be ranked 3rd in the world in Call of Duty. I was an absolute loser. And then I went on a 10-year massive self-improvement journey, and I made this channel to document my learnings and experiences and to give back. Getting started with lesson learned number 1. So you're going to fail miserably at first. I was, about 21 years old when I started doing this. I always personally have gone up to the hottest girls. And, at that point in my life, I definitely was shooting out of my league. But I'm glad that I went up to the hottest girls, because obviously the hotter they are, the more nervous you are, the more you need to acclimate it quickly to the anxiety. It's like exposure therapy. So I've had a friend, his first cold approach, he got security called on him. But you're going to be nervous. You're not going to know how long the interaction should be. What should I talk about? Should I close her for her number, her Instagram? After I do that, when should I follow up with her? So I remember funny story, guys. I remember I was at a club one day in my early 20s, and I was talking to this girl, and I said, hey, we should go home right now. You should come back to my place. And when she said okay, because I was rejected so many times in a row, so she goes, yeah, let's do it, let's go. And I said, really? And she goes, oh, never mind. So I thought that was hilarious. I was just so shocked. That was the first girl out of all these girls I approached that was down. So I'll never forget that. So again, lesson number 1 is you're going to fail miserably at first. It has a massive learning curve. So, don't let it get you down. Lesson learned number 2. So reference experiences are key. So what a reference experience is essentially, the first time you get a date out of it, or the first time you hook up with a girl from it, or you get a relationship from it. That's a reference experience. That's quote unquote like a notch on your belt. And these reference experiences, right, are going to be able to ground you in your confidence, right? So I've had enough success with cold approaching women that if I take a few months off, or if I get rejected 10 times in a row, I could think back on these reference experiences and know of all the other times that girls like me, they were down, I went on dates with them, we hung out together, etc. Right? So you really need to work on building these reference experiences. And when you have no reference experiences right at the beginning, obviously it's hard to ground your confidence in any result, right? The third lesson learned, guys, is obviously a lot of people know this, but day game is a completely different beast than night game, right? Day game takes a whole nother level of confidence. Usually the girls aren't in groups like social circles. Usually there's not social lubricants or alcohol involved, which is a massive crutch for a lot of guys cold approaching, right? So day game, in my opinion, takes true confidence. And if you want to find, a relationship or something like that, I believe day game. Night game is still great as well, but I believe day game is really where it's at. I'll give you an example. This weekend, I was at a pool party and ran into a guy that I know. And he goes, hey, what's up, man? And he goes, dude, there's a lot of hot girls here. I go, I know, man. He goes, dude, I'm just having trouble, talking to them. Have you talked to any? I said, yeah, I've talked to some. And so that showed me, during the day when everyone's not really fucked up, but people were drinking, right? But it was 2 o'clock on a Saturday pool party, and he was having trouble talking to the ladies. Well, I run into the guy literally at Nightlife that same night 2 days ago, and someone taps me on my shoulder, right? And I turn around, and he has this girl. Granted, she was kind of mid, but she was all over him. You could tell he was inebriated for sure, and he was groping her ass, and she was all up on him, and they were making out. So that showed me, right? Here's this guy who was expressing concerns, difficulty of girls sober, during the day, but at night, right, when he was in a nightlife environment and was, had that liquid courage, he was definitely drunk, he was able to get a girl, right? So day game, has just a whole nother level of, skill involved. And I made another video on this channel. Go check it out. I talked about why bars and clubs are not the best place to meet women. Just imagine approaching a girl in a grocery store, the level of balls, right? The level of tact that you have to have compared to a nightclub. So anyways, guys, lesson number 4. All right. So lesson 4 is wingmen are generally a crutch, right? A lot of guys, they don't have the balls to do it alone, but I've had friends tell me, hey, I just can't do it myself. I just can't go up to them. But if someone introduces me and says, hey, this is my buddy Ryan, right? Then we're good. Then I'm good to go after that. Well, dude, come on. Right? So wingmen are a crutch. I made another video on the channel regarding why wingmen actually could hold you back, and I don't prefer wingman. So go check that video out. But let me give you another example from that same pool party on Friday, guys. So I met this girl. She was a former cheerleader, and she's a future nurse practitioner. Absolute stunner, makes a shit ton of money, is, career oriented. She was talking to me about her Roth IRA and investing, and I told her, I said, that is the sexiest thing you could tell me. So I went up to this girl, I cold approached her. I was there with a buddy, right? I had the buddy talk to the friend. And this is a buddy that I'm not too close with. We've never cold approached together, and we've only hung out a few times, right? So long story short, it was going absolutely incredible. We hit it off. After about 7 minutes, I was just running out of things to say. I didn't know what to say anymore. Our conversation started to lull. It was kind of awkward. And I remember thinking, fuck, if I was just here alone, I would close her. I would say, hey, well, it was really great chatting with you. I've actually got to run. Here, let me get your number real quick, right? And I really believe in my heart, guys, that this perfect girl would have seen me again and went on a date with me. But then it just got super cringe, super cringe. I didn't know if I should interrupt them, pull my friend away. Like, they were really, really chatting as well. So it just got super cringe. The awkwardness was palpable. She even told me, like, hey, like, it looks like they're hitting it off. Like, should we interrupt them or what? We didn't interrupt them. Then we started chatting more. And then it was just so forced and so awkward. Long story short, it completely screwed up everything, right? And I told my buddy, I said, dude, he goes, oh, my bad, man. He goes, I was just trying to talk to the other girl for you. I said, dude, you didn't do anything wrong. I said, but it got really cringe. I said, so with wingman, it has to be perfectly coordinated, right? And usually when two guys go up to two girls, right, one conversation might last 20 minutes, whereas one might last 30 seconds. I have a boyfriend. Well, what do you do after that? Like, oh, you occupy them for your friend. It takes a shit ton of coordination, right? So I lost this girl because I felt like I had to stay in the set and keep talking and talking and talking. And it went from her being completely impressed by me, completely swept off her feet by me, to, I swear to God, just to try to change up the environment. I didn't know what to do. I said, hey, let's walk over to this bar. You want to come walk over and get a drink with me? I just wanted to, like, move up the scenery, like move to just change something as a last ditch Hail Mary attempt. And I heard her whisper to her friend, I swear to God, guys, she said, I don't feel safe going over there alone. What she means is with me. And she asked her friend to come. And that's the psychology of women, right? Women, they only care about how you feel. And I'm going to talk about that in a second, right? So she was super comfortable with me, really liked me. Then the awkwardness kicked in, right? Super awkward, right? We were talking just to talk. Our conversation reached a natural endpoint. But now, since it was cringy, it's not logical, right? But in her brain, she thinks if the guy's feeling awkward, like it's a weird vibe, I don't feel safe. I feel in danger. That's how they literally feel, right? It's not really a logical response, but it's an emotional response, since women are emotional creatures. And that's another reason why, wingmanning, it's a crutch. Feel free to do it, but it's not really my preferred method. So number 6, guys, you really have to be in tune, and it's a learned skill over many cold approaches, into social cues and subtle cues, right? I was a loser in high school, right? All I did was play Call of Duty. I was, my social calibration, if you will, or my social reading the room was fucking terrible. So I had to develop that skill over time, right? So I promise you guys, 99.99% of the time, when a woman says, hey, yeah, text me, or hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom, I'll be right back, I'll come and find you, or yeah, we should go out sometime, it's always usually that's a rejection. So for example, I called up a girl one time, and she answers the phone. I go, hey, this is Eric, I met you last night. She goes, hey, now's not a good time, can I call you back later? And I already knew that the girl wasn't into me. So the reason why this is the case, guys, is women aren't direct. They're not going to say, hey, I don't like you, like, can you leave? Because they're worried, like, what you're going to do. Are you going to get physical, right? So they lie. They go, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom, I'll come right back, text me. But think about it from a woman's perspective. Let's say you met a guy and he swept you off your feet, and it's your dream guy, and like you're like, oh my God, like I really want to see this guy. I hope he takes me on a date. Maybe he's my future husband. He's so perfect. He's so smooth. Do you think you're going to have the balls as a woman, right? When you have more of a submissive energy to say, hey, text me, call me. Yeah. Hey, I'll call you later. We should go out sometime. No, they're going to be thinking, oh, I hope he reaches out to me. I hope he calls me. I hope he texts me, right? I hope he asks me out. So that's a huge red flag when they have the balls. Like, again, maybe 1% of girls will say it, but I'm telling you guys, when women say they'll do something like that initially off rip, it usually is a terrible, terrible sign. Lesson learned number 7. So I made a video on this previously as well, but cold approaching is a path to enlightenment, in my opinion. And cold approaching is, in my opinion, the biggest self-improvement thing that you could do as a man. You know, the root of this channel is self-improvement, mindset, leveling up, right? And the reason why cold approach is a path to enlightenment is when you first go to cold approach, you're going to get massive internal thoughts of, oh, I don't think I'm good enough for like that caliber of a girl, or, you know, I don't, what do I say? What do I do? I don't think I'm good enough, or do I look good enough? I'm not smooth enough, right? You're going to have all these self-limiting beliefs that really magnify how you feel inside. And a lot of guys will try to mask it, right, with alcohol. They'll try to lie to themselves, but you can't really lie to yourself. Your subconscious knows, you know, your true identity. So what you have to do actually is battle these things head on, right? If you don't feel like you look good enough, well, you got to go to the gym and you got to get a body, right? If you don't feel like you're smooth enough, well, you got to keep cold approaching until you learn how to be smooth. You know, you got to take an improv class. You got to, you know, level up your social skills, watch videos on charisma. If you don't think you're good enough for a girl as hot as that across the bar that your friend wants you to talk to, hey, go talk to her. It's because you've never dated a girl like that. You never banged a girl like that, right? So you don't have the reference experiences, right? You feel confident going up to that girl, right? So cold approach is going to reveal to you all of your issues, all of your self-limiting beliefs, all of your hangups, and overcoming those things. And also part of overcoming them is being aware of them, being conscious of them, being accepting of them, and then deciding to take calculated action against them. And to me, that's the root of, you know, the path to enlightenment, the path to self-actualization, and you know, being the best version of yourself. So number 8, guys, is women can see right through you, right? Women are the most intuitive creatures ever. Guys suck with intuition. I would actually say I'm like really high compared to most guys regarding my intuition. I'm pretty good at it, but I'm nowhere even near an 18-year-old girl's level of intuition. Women, you know, they're not, supposedly it's evolutionary, it's biological, right? So men, you know, we're stronger, we're more logical, right? But women, right, they can't beat anyone in a fight. And so as a result, they have to be very intuitive, right? That's how they sense danger. That's how they trust people. They're energetic beings. They really could read energy. And the reason I mention this, guys, is you have to truly have a masculine frame and feel good enough for the girl. There's a person out there that I like to listen to, and they say the mindset that you need to have is one of one. I am one of one. This girl, the best thing for her in her life would be meeting me. But again, if you haven't put the work in, if you try to lie to yourself, if you're a loser and you just say, oh, dude, this hot Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, you know, she's, you know, the best thing is if I go up and cold approach her and she's going to love me. Like, you can't lie to yourself like that. You do have to put work in. But ultimately, guys, women, they could see right away if you don't feel good enough for the girl. They could see if you're like salesy, right? If you're coming off incongruent. And they could see if you're like trying to mask feeling anxiety. Another thing that turns women off is if they could tell that her giving her number or not is really, really going to like impact your self-esteem. Like if you get rejected, this is the biggest part of your whole week, talking to her. And if she rejects you, like, oh, it's going to crush, you know, that turns her off. So again, women, they are extremely intuitive. They see through all the bullshit. Don't lie to them. And a lot of women just want a guy to be themselves at the end of the day, right? The final and number 9 lesson learned from 2,000 plus cold approaches is confidence and vibe matters just as much, if not more, than look. Confidence and vibe matters just as much, if not more, than your looks. But let's just say you're an average guy. If your charisma, if your energy, if her intuition tells her like this guy is truly confident, like his energy, he's witty, if he doesn't have weird vibe, right? And if you're just watching porn all week and smoking weed and then you go out and talk to women, there's just something with your energy. They could tell like something's weird about this guy. I don't feel safe again, right? But if you have good energy, you have good nutrition, good mindset, you put in work, you're self-developed, right? The confidence and your vibe is almost everything when it comes to women, because there's something called a law of state transference, right? So if you're a little nervous, right, the girl picks up on that and she's like, why do I feel weird? But if you're like, imagine if you were like, I love to give this example. The night that I made $300,000, I felt ecstatic. And so when I was going to talk to girls that night, they felt that. My ecstaticness and my confidence, my success transferred onto the girl. And I had two girls that night tell me, I've never had a guy make me feel this way, ever. And just imagine, knock on wood, let's say your family members died. Let's say you got beat up in a fight. Let's say you lost all your money, all within the same week. Let's say you tried to go out and be happy and talk to girls. It's just your vibe is going to be off no matter how hard you try. So again, vibe and confidence matter more than looks. So guys, these are my top 9 lessons after 2,000 plus cold approaches throughout the past decade. I think it's one of the biggest things that a man can do on his masculine self-development journey. It's gained, a ton of confidence in me. And ultimately, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Really looking forward to almost at 50 subscribers. So trying to make 50, I don't know, maybe 100 by the end of the year. So anyways, guys, really appreciate you tuning in. Drop your feedback below and I will see you in the next video.